to this segment of Farm Talk brought to you by the National Irrigation Commission, making the difference in agriculture. This morning we're joined by Joseph Giles, Chief Executive Officer of the National Irrigation Commission. Mr. Giles, this is my first conversation with you for the year. We're in the month of February, but please allow me to wish you nevertheless a happy new year. I trust your year is off to a good start.
Thank you very much, Althea. And may I just say the same. Happy New Year to you. And I won't complain thus far.
All right, wonderful. Lots and lots of work to do, Joseph Giles. I know the National Irrigation Commission, you're engaged in quite a number of activities. Let me get right in because we have quite a bit to discuss. I understand that a team from the National Irrigation Commission Limited visited some farmers in Yallahs St. Thomas last week to engage them. Tell us a little bit about that engagement, why it is that you visited Yallahs, and what is it that you observed?
You know, Althea, the Ministry of Agriculture, has embarked on an onion program. Because if my memory serves me right, they say we're just producing 20% of what, the country consumes. And I went to Yallahs last week. And, I heard that the ministry team would have gone there several times. And when I went there and saw onion production, it is super, super encouraging for us as a nation. What it means, we can really produce and eat what we grow as a tagline. But what was even more important, for us from the NIC is that we are involved, in the onion production by supplying water to these farmers. And what is even more interesting to me is that we had a number of young farmers really involved in with onion production. You're talking about as young as 23, 25 years of age. And, one of these days, I know you're busy. You need to take just take a trip out to Yallahs.
I need to do some field trips. To go on field trips.
Yes.
I agree with you.
Yes, and it is, I'm telling you, the onion production, it is lush and all that sort of stuff. And we're just hoping and praying that, these onions, no disease or whatsoever will take these onions. That's a real maturity. So I'm pleased to say we have been a part of that. And I say that because, we are really approaching the drought season. And as our tagline says, irrigation makes a difference. And it is in this time that irrigation is critical because you have to be able to provide irrigation to these farmers that they can really produce. So it is something I'm telling you, I'm not one that is easily surprised. And when I really visited Yallahs, it is something to behold. I'm proud as a nation what we are doing. So the ministry, we have to give the ministry commendation because their extension service, along with RADA, they have been really out there with these farmers.
How does the work of the National Irrigation Commission factor in cases such as Yallahs in St. Thomas? What kind of work are you doing in that region?
We have 3 deep well pumps where we lift water from underground and provide irrigation service to these farmers. And that is, I don't know where you are with Yallahs. There's a section called Philip Steel. There's another section called Norris and Hartley. So we provide irrigation service to these farmers. As a matter of fact, even as we speak, we're trying to get additional wells in that area to ensure that we have adequate water. Because Yallahs is an onion production center, I would call it.
Right. And so the idea then is as the farmers continue to expand their operations, you are supporting them by supplying the much needed facility to irrigate their fields, which is important. How many of them, though, are on board in terms of irrigation? Do you have a good buy-in from the farmers in the area?
That's the only source of water you'd say to do agriculture in those belts. Yes. So all those persons are on board, and as a matter of fact, there more persons want to be on board, but we have to be prudent in how we manage the very important commodity, as you put it, because you don't want to give persons contract and then we're not in a position
to
provide the service. Yes.
You have to increase capacity as well.
We have to increase capacity that we can really do more onion production as well.
Excellent. What about the other crops? You speak about onions, and that is because, of course, you would have focused on that particular project. But other crops generally, how are they doing as a result of the engagement with the NIC?
Well, you know,
farmers' engagement with the NIC.
Well, we provide irrigation service. So once you are in the area that we have irrigation infrastructure, you are, once you have a legitimate contract, you duly supply with irrigation water. So you have other farmers who are doing other cash crops and mangoes and all that sort of stuff. So the entire belt of Yalas, Phillips Steel, that irrigation infrastructure is, we provide irrigation service. We have no...
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Giles, complete your thought.
Yes, I'm saying we have no special crops that we want to provide irrigation service to. We just provide irrigation service to irrigated areas that can be served with irrigation water.
So it's just about getting the service to the farmers, and you work with all farmers, regardless of the crops that they're focusing on. Do you have any issues in that region in terms of trespassing on the works of the NIC?
Well, I'll say that's a usual problem. Oftentimes you have illicit persons trying to enter a system in not the legal manner. We have security teams in our office. Once they are discovered, we do what we have to do as the Irrigation Act prescribed.
Okay, so the challenge is the age-old challenge. We are going to find those among us who move in that direction. And it is, of course, having a good system in place to see how best you can control it. So the challenge is unfortunately one that we have to face. You did mention earlier, though, Mr. Giles, the importance of youth in agriculture. What are you noticing in terms of youth involvement in agriculture in the region? You did mention the age of the farmers, but what about the enthusiasm coming from the youngsters?
Well, out there, some of the better farmers in the onion production are young person. And, I just mentioned Yalas, but if we step across a parish that you love so well, St. Elizabeth and Manchester, the number of youth, farming is their livelihood. Farming is their life, their real life. So, number of youth, and not only youth, we're talking about female as well. I was on a tour with Minister yesterday. We're discussing fish farming. And I was pleased to see some young persons there participating, speaking about, growing and rearing fish. And, it is encouraging, and female as well. Young female. So I believe slowly but surely the word is out there that agriculture is a business and persons are taking it as a business now. When you hear, and some persons were candid and spoke about, the amount of money that they are reaping from farming. So it is encouraging, and I believe the ministry has been pushing that first. It can only have us better as we push and more young person get involved, because what it means, and if these persons are successful at this young, it means they'll stay the long haul, and I believe they will also propel other persons, young persons, when once they realize that money is being made from agriculture.
All right. I want Mr. Giles to touch on the Essex Valley Development Project. And the reason I'm doing that, last week when we had the Minister, Colonel Charles Jr. on, there was a lady, Miss Daffa, who called from St. Elizabeth. And one of the concerns that she was expressing was that despite the pipes being laid, the wells being done, work being done with the farmers on their properties, she is not comfortable with, and I'm paraphrasing, with the pace at which she sees the project going. Can you just update us as to what is happening with the Essex Valley Development Project?
Yes, and I'm sure that because we were supposed to meet, but he would not have been to speak. And let me use this medium to assure the farmers that, let me be the first to say we are a bit behind. But it is not something that we want to boast about, but the whole supply disruption through the pandemic has caused significant alternate number of communities. And you can appreciate that the stuff like pipes, the things and all those stuff for irrigation, those are not manufactured in Jamaica. It is as far away as China, and you can appreciate whether the only thing that is would have asked for pipes to be manufactured. Let me just show the farmers that we have even a contract in place to install the irrigation infrastructure once the pipes arrive in Jamaica. And as we speak, we have on paper that the pipes are to be reaching Jamaica April. Once the pipes are here, you can bet the next day the contractor will be out there in the field. As it is just waiting on us. So it is not something that we have any control over at this point. So, farmers are eager for the water. We're even more eager to provide the service to them. So I just assure the Essex Valley farmers that we are still committed to the task. We are a part of the wider world, and we are, we have been caught in this whole supply chain disruption and another person logistics disruption. So that is
so essentially, then the events of the past 2 to 3 years would have impacted your ability to move the project at the pace that you would want to. COVID-19 has brought higher prices in terms of oil. It has brought challenges in terms of movement, in terms of freighting. So quite a bit happening on the ground. I have to break, but when we come back, I can pick up on that. Talk a little bit about the timelines, the adjusted timelines for the project, plus other activities that you're engaging in for this financial year.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
6:45.
Under the law. Know your rights and how the laws of Jamaica can help you defend those rights. Under the law.
Brought to you today by the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities. Educating, advocating, empowering.
Here are some interesting facts under the Disabilities Act.
Fact. Persons with disabilities have a right to education.
A right to proper health care.
Fact. We have a right to housing and to be able to enter premises.
A right to public transportation that we can enter on our own.
And a right to take part in political and public life.
Enough more things in the Act. Make a start and play a part. Respect the ability of each person with a disability and learn all the facts on the Act.
Visit jcpdja.com.
Come in. Good afternoon, Mr. Wilson. I'm Mr. Nibson Roger.
Roger, last time I saw you, you were yay high.
I'm not here for pleasantries today, though, sir. You terminated my father after 35 years with the company.
Because he had a stroke, Roger.
His brain is still good. He knows the job inside out.
Now, with one side paralyzed, he can hardly walk, and I would have to retrain him. I can't afford that. He's 62. It will take over a year. And how many more years could we get from him? He got an excellent retirement package and the company was fair.
That sounds simple to you, but Daddy not taking it very well. You can make arrangements for him to keep his job. The burden not so excessive for your company to put in a winding ramp or an elevator or even fix up an office downstairs.
To put in a winding ramp or an elevator to keep him here would have been an excessive burden on the company, Roger. And this building is too old to put in that. It makes better business sense to hire a new person to take over.
You may have to prove that to the tribunal, Mr. Wilson.
The Disabilities Act was intended to prevent or prohibit discrimination against persons with disabilities. To justify a claim of disproportionate and undue burden, the considerations include the nature of the benefit likely to accrue to or the detriment likely to be suffered by the company, the effect of the disability on a person concerned, the financial circumstances of the company claiming disproportionate or undue burden, or the estimated amount of expenditure or other allocation of resources required by the company, and whether it is reasonably proportionate to the benefits it is likely to get from the exercise. That's how it is under the law.
Brought to you today by the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities. Educating, advocating, empowering.
Join us Wednesdays and Thursdays at 6:45 and 8:55 a.m. and at 4 and 9:55 p.m. on Power 106 FM for Under the Law.
This is Farm Talk here on Power 106 FM. Joseph Giles, Chief Executive Officer of the National Irrigation Commission, is with us, and we just touched on the Essex Valley Development Project, which Mr. Giles indicated. They have been off target in terms of the timeline, particularly because of what has been happening worldwide. We're talking about freight issues, we're talking about supply chain issues, and so those challenges are there. But having said that, Mr. Giles, what adjustments have you made in terms of the targets now moving forward?
So out there, and it seems that if you need to be a consultant, all those that you have mentioned, along with the even cost, a serious cost implication. But what I'll say, so the projects are slated to be completed 2023. What I'm almost sticking slavish to is that we still want to meet those deadlines. So we are giving ourselves some real hard challenge that we still want to get those projects delivered within the time. So what I'm saying to the farmers, that once we hit the ground in terms of construction, we'll be there in full force because they need the water and we have to meet some deadlines. So it's a very robust task we have set ourselves, but we are committed to the task.
And of course, I would imagine that the farmers, they can keep abreast of what is happening. Some of them already using the services of the National Irrigation Commission in other ways, so they can check with your offices to see exactly the pace at which you're going and what is happening.
No, the project team has a social scientist that we keep in touch. We have regular meetings with the farmers. As a matter of fact, I believe in terms of stakeholder participation, the project implementing unit or executing unit, they have a good rapport with the stakeholder. We consider them to be the most valuable stakeholder.
The main stakeholders?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
They're the ones who are going to be using the service.
Exactly. So we keep them in the loop. Oftentimes persons, and I'll say from experience, the adjoining farm, New Forest, the House, when we went there and we said we'd be bringing irrigation service, you had a lot of naysayers. Even when the wells were drilled, person said no water is coming. It's another 9-day wonder. And the rest is history. New Forest is one of the best agro park, and and we know the persons in the Essex Valley area. They are farmers similar to the New Forest. So we're not concerned about if they will produce. Yes, we the deadline, because we have missed the deadline, and when persons don't see work, sometimes they're wondering if this change of heart. There's no change of heart. And let me just assure the farmers, we're still committed, and the irrigation infrastructure will be installed in good time.
Excellent. Right. So we have a few minutes left that I want to use those few minutes to talk about some of the other major NIC activities for the rest of the financial year. What other activities are you going to be focused on?
So we have a pilot project in St. Catherine and the southern part of St. Catherine and the southern part of Clarendon, and that is in the Panarsos and the Amity Hall area. And those, again, were way down the wicket in terms of contract to the requisite contractors. And again, we're at the stage where we have reached out to the manufacturer to bring in irrigation material, equipment, if you please. So again, that is caught up in the logistics and all that part of stuff. Another project that we are working on, and I've spoken to you about the Pedro Plain, where we want to bring water from the Black River. We have done the design already, preliminary design, and we're working. And projects like these require a lot of land. So as we speak, we're doing some land, we're working on land matters, land-related matters, to get that project into finalizing the irrigation design. Same breath, we are also doing an environmental impact assessment, because we have to be mindful how we operate within the space. We are doing sustainable development from an irrigation standpoint, so we have to go through that as well. So all those activities are going on, and as usual out there, we are big. Our electricity bill is one of our biggest line items. So we are in the business of looking at all our sites that we use power supply, how we can reduce that, and we continue to, have mini projects, if you please, and how we are installing a solar system at the pump site. In December, we would have installed one and commissioned, and we're down the wicket with some contracts already to install other solar sites at some of our other pumping stations. So I believe we are very big on that. I always have to thank my energy team, in terms of the quality and the quantity of work they are doing in that aspect, because we have to make irrigation water really affordable and in the reach of farmers. And along with those, we always look at, we were in a meeting yesterday again, and farmers were talking about our conveyance system. A lot of the conveyance system in the open canals, they're from 1940, these canals. You can appreciate that they are aging. So we continue to look to see how we can change out some of these into pipelines that we will reduce our conveyance losses. So we are a work in progress as it relates to improving our service delivered to our farmers. And, I boast this, Alti, and I keep on saying to people, we're accounting for 72% of the water that we produce as a company. 28, we're not satisfied with that 28, because 28% of water that is being unaccounted for is still massive in the scheme of things, because we use millions of cubic meters annually. But the year before we were 70 and we reached 72. So incrementally, we are making the difference. And what it means, 2% you save is just 2% more available to water. And 2% of what we produce is massive in terms of agricultural production in this country.
All right, so the fact is the work continues. I thank you so very much for the focus this morning, for clarifying what is happening with that Essex Valley project, for talking about the work that is being done in other areas to assist the farmers. And I know the farmers are very, very excited to get this information. Thank you very much, Mr. Giles. It is always a pleasure to engage you in conversation.
You're most welcome. And I'll say our partner in making the difference.
All right, thank you. Joseph Giles there, Chief Executive Officer of the National Irrigation Commission. And the National Irrigation Commission Limited, they provide irrigation services to agricultural and industrial users across 3 regions in Jamaica, the eastern, central, and western regions. And Mr. Giles touched on all 3 this morning. You can contact NIC at 876-977-6624. Email them, nic@cwjamaica.com, or visit their website at www.nicjamaica.com. This has been another in the series, National Irrigation Commission, making the difference in agriculture.